Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Reacts. And on today's episode, we are looking at one of Italy's most iconic tourist destinations that will now restrict the amount of people that could visit every single day. If this doesn't have you
Yeah,
up in
this is
arms, I don't know what will.
this is an increasingly common practice throughout the world on a number of sites, particularly those that are iconic and draw in an overabundance of tourists, where you basically you put a daily cap on the number of visitors allowed to enter, the number of tickets allowed to be sold for this location in an effort to preserve it because surprise, surprise, human activity tends to wear things down. And a lot of
It's
these sites just don't have the facilities to handle all the tourists they received in the modern day.
and it's something that's very common even here in the United States. I know post COVID, we basically started limiting the amount of people in national parks because they were just doing so much ecological damage. However, that can same be said about historical sites and archaeological sites specifically, because a lot of times archaeological sites are what survived. Usually not always in great condition. However, Pompeii is notable because it is in great condition. And it's very interesting because a lot of times they restrict the viewers or the visitors entirely because of the damages that they bring, and whether it's intentional or not, like there's a lot of things that go into it, from having visitor center, interpretive centers, having facilities for food, to use the bathrooms. Like all these things need to be planned out, and when you're quite literally standing on the history, it's kind of hard to dig out a new bathroom. And that's just the like direct effects. There's so many indirect effects where pollution, looting, people will carve their names into something that's 3,000 years old. People will chip away a little bit of stone. That's why Stonehenge, you can't visit the stones themselves. You can visit them from about 100 yards away because people kept chipping them away and kept taking
Yeah,
souvenirs with them, because one little piece of rock doesn't matter. But when it's 100,000 little pieces of rock, well, then you lost the whole thing.
yeah. And it doesn't even have to have bad behavior from tourists to prompt something like this. In Pompeii's case, the reason given is that they currently are receiving about 4 million visitors every year, and that's double what they're used to. It has, it's double their 2000 numbers, and they've seen a massive rapid spike since the pandemic ended. So they weren't prepared for this growth. I don't think they could be prepared for this growth. But on the plus side, though, their limitation does seem to focus solely around volume of the number of people that are coming on specific days.
And for the other thing that I think is kind of important to note is 4 million people a year is a lot. However, this ban isn't really going to impact people immediately because, as it stands right now, 4 million people a year is roughly about 11,000 people. It's just shy. It's like 10,9
Yeah,
something. So
yeah,
it's a preventative future cap.
yeah, yeah. The current ban sits at 20,000 individuals, which means that if Pompeii would be open every single day of the year, they would get a little over 7 million visitors. I think it's 7.3 million, which is almost twice what they're getting right now. But the trick of it is the numbers they're getting now, you might have 30,000 people coming on a single day because it's a big holiday or it's just the busy season. And that kind of immediate volume needs to be cut down because, if I have 30,000 people in a space meant for 10 to 20,000 tops, things are going to go wrong and I'm not going to be able to respond effectively.
Well, and it's kind of interesting. They do bring up the Rick Steves effect, which is an interesting one. And that basically is just the attention that travel shows bring to these sites. And that is a direct correlation between the amount of visitors that come. And the other thing that's important to note is, while Pompeii is one of the premier tourist destinations in the world, it also is still an active site. People are still excavating it and doing research to the day. So there's always excavations going around at the time. There's a lot of work that's still being done, and having the amount of people there is not always doing the best. And one of the things they talk about is that if you really do want to plan it out and you want to go during a good time, go during the off season when not as many people are traveling. I know in America we love to travel from June to August, September if we could,
Yep.
and they recommend you go pretty much January through March and November through December.
Yep. And the one key thing to remember with Pompeii specifically, if you are planning to go, is whatever you do, don't go on the first Sunday of the month because that's the free day, and that is when like the volume ticks up over that 20,000, and everyone is the reason the ban is here.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would go for the free day just because I'm cheap, but you can even see from the picture they have, there's a lot of people there. And, granted, Pompeii was a city and had a large population when it was around. Not all the city is accessible, not all the city is available for people to walk through. And you also do want to try and control people. I mean, the crowd control and the herding that has to go through some of these sites is honestly awe inspiring.
Yep.
Like I mentioned Stonehenge earlier, but Stonehenge has a really great way of doing it where you get dropped off like a quarter mile away from the site at a visitor center. You have time to use the bathroom, to mingle, to walk around, go shopping, and then you walk out and you go through like a half-mile loop to go see the site itself, see the stones. And they keep you properly cordoned off. There's ropes everywhere. But they do that because Stonehenge, like Pompeii, has a lot of stuff still buried, still beneath your feet that they have to try and do the research, make sure nothing's getting, like, nothing incredible is
Lost.
being destroyed or lost. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just kind of slows it down. But it's an interesting thought process. Are we going to hit a point in the near future where some of these big World Heritage sites are going to be less accessible than they currently are?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how do we
It's
manage it?
yeah. It's definitely one of the things where like in the long term you have to worry about things like was it forced scarcity where this site was so popular we limited the number of people to come that could come. That's that led to an increase in ticket prices because people were fighting over each other. Scalping's a thing.
Oh, the Taylor Swift effect
Yeah, yeah, and
for my
then
Swifties
you're,
out
you're
there.
stuck with sites that are for the ultra rich only. It's $5,000 to set foot on the Eiffel Tower. Oh well.
I, I do also think too because there are sites where this has happened beyond Stonehenge. Like I think of the caves at Lascaux that were specifically shut off. The cave paintings that everyone thinks of when you think of cave paintings, the like buffalo or deer on the wall in the red paint. They closed that site off permanently. You cannot visit the original. However, they built a one for one scale replica that allows for unlimited amounts of tourism. And it was an innovative solution at the time because it was specifically humans that were damaging the paintings. The moisture from our breaths, the carbon dioxide that we exude into the cave were causing issues. So, kind of an interesting one here with Pompeii. We'll see what happens next. They're coming for our history next. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you see it, you start to panic, but the logic behind it really doesn't, at least immediately, hurt you, the tourist, or the actual historical site.
Arguably, it's only for the better. It's to preserve the site so more generations can see it. And to be quite frank, I wish a lot of places had crowd control. Like if the shopping mall only let 2,000 people in at a time, I'd be there every day. Tell me I don't have to go wait through a massive crowd. I'd pay extra for that. But I think that's a great point for us to wrap up today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know your thoughts down below, and we'll see you in the next one.